So hello guys, I just a few minutes ago posted an Edgar Cayce prediction on Facebook, and for those of you who may not be familiar with the works of Edgar Cayce, he was called America's sleeping prophet, and he lived over 100 years ago. Well, he actually lived until the 1945, I believe. Um, and as a young boy, he was extremely devout. He read the Bible from beginning to end every single year of his life, and he managed to get hit by a baseball. I think the baseball hit him in his throat when he was very young, and it was the first time that he entered a trance state and discovered what he could do to remedy the condition that had resulted from that. And after that, when people got to know that he was able to scan people's bodies who were not even physically present. He would be given a name and an address, and the person in question would be told to be at that place at a designated time. And then Edgar Cayce, in an astral form or some other form, would go to that location, and he would scan, like an MRI, he would scan the entire body of the person, and then he would come back, and he had a stenographer asking him questions like, what do you find? What is the cause? What is the solution? And he would give an entire discussion about what had happened. The first time he did that, it was having to do with a young girl whom the doctors had given up on. They just couldn't do a thing for her, and she was dying. And her mother brought her to Edgar Cayce, and Edgar went into his trance state. And he said, on such and such a date, as you and your daughter were stepping from a carriage, she slipped and she hit her tailbone on the edge of the carriage step. And as a result of that, an infection took hold in that part of her lower spine. And none of the doctors had been able to discern this. None of them had been able to figure out what had caused it or how to fix it. And he gave the mom express instructions as to what she should do to remedy this, and the little girl completely recovered. And of course, Edgar Cayce became extremely popular as a result of being able to do this. He had such a rare gift. And he was a biblical scholar of such importance that in his readings, he always brought God to the forefront. And then one time he went into a trance state and he started to talk about reincarnation. And Edgar didn't believe in reincarnation because the Bible had been purged of any mention of it deliberately by the meeting in Constantinople. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So the fact that he was not aware that reincarnation was a thing, and he came out of the trance and he saw that he had talked about reincarnation, he was so freaked out by it that he thought it was not coming from the devil, and he stopped reading. And it took a lot of people around him to encourage him to keep going, people who did believe in reincarnation. And so Edgar eventually continued, and then his readings became even more dramatic because now he was bringing other lifetimes into why somebody would have this, that, or the other disease or condition or event in their lives. And I just loved the Cayce reading so much, except that Cayce himself believed he was Lazarus, Jesus' friend whom he brought back from the dead. And Cayce had managed to surround himself with the entire biblical assembly except for Jesus. And at that point I thought, no, that's just a little bit too much. But given counterparts, given probable selves, given alternate selves, it's entirely possible that various aspects of the original biblical cast have resurfaced and were living at the time of Edgar Cayce. So one of the things that I used his reading for initially, and this is back in the 70s, I read that um, coffee by itself can be a nutrient to the body, but once you mix sugar or milk or anything else, cream, whatever, into it, it turns into a poison in the body. And back in that time, I liked cafe au lait a lot. It was almost like I liked a little bit of coffee in my cream. But when I read that, I immediately stopped using the cream and started drinking the coffee black. And I have had black coffee ever since. And it's amazing, you can get used to just about anything if you put your mind to it. The other thing, I more recently used Cayce's formulations. His wife Gertrude had come down with TB, and this is like in the 30s, I think. Um, and in those days, a diagnosis of TB was pretty much a death sentence. You didn't live too long with it. And Edgar went into trance, and he came up with this formulation to help Gertrude, and it consisted of a wooden oak cask where the inside had been burned so that it was charcoaled inside. And then into this cask he put a bunch of different things, including brandy, and some other things. And Gertrude had to inhale, not drink the stuff, but inhale the fumes that this concoction created a couple of times a day. And she did that, and she was cured of her TB. And all of Cayce's stuff is documented because every time he went into a trance state, there was a secretary there taking notes. And now we have the Association for Research and Enlightenment, I think in Virginia Beach. It's the organization that was built up around his teachings. And there are thousands and thousands of his readings available. So back, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, I started to experience a cough. I wasn't quite sure what I never have figured out really what caused it. I did end up spending some time in my mom's home in Florida in '93, I think. And the house had been subjected to a flood. The seawall had been breached, and the water had come into her house 2 feet, 2.5 feet, and none of the electric was working anymore, so the mold spores were just taking off. She was hospitalized as a result of that, and I went down there and started scrubbing the place without any. In those days, we weren't talking about mold and preventatives, black mold, other kinds of mold, what it could do to you. Now I'm just scrubbing away there, cleaning everything up, peeling apart photographs that had gotten waterlogged and moldy. I did that for 2 weeks, and the coughing started a couple of years later. So I don't know whether that caused it or not, but I decided in 21, towards the end of 21, that I would try Edgar Cayce's concoction of the charred oak cask. And I did that for 3/4 of a year. And the chronic cough kind of went away. It went from maybe 100% to maybe 15%. There's still a little smidgen of something lingering, but it did me so much good. And I am just a real proponent of the Cayce teachings. And so when I saw this particular video that had been made about his prophecies about Trump, I wanted to share that with you because a lot of people are feeling extremely fearful right now. It's like we don't know where this is going, what is going to happen to this country. Are we going to go completely to hell? Or will the better angels come forward? My take has been that we need to go through this as a country because there is so much hatred. The people who worried about the undocumented taking something away from them. The white folks who, upset about black people attending colleges. The white people who absolutely hated Barack Obama because he was black. I mean, one of the most eloquent, delightful presidents this country has ever had. But, the white folk, the the children of the KKK, they just were really upset about that. I mean, even Mitch McConnell said we made it up to the black people for everything we'd done to them by electing Obama. And I mean, you remember how hateful Mitch McConnell was. He made a decision that the Republicans would oppose absolutely everything that Obama put forward. So the gridlock started for sure with Mitch McConnell absolutely refusing to sanction anything that Obama wanted, and somehow the Affordable Care Act got passed, which the Republicans have never let us live down, and they have come up with nothing better. They haven't, right? So we're still at this juncture now of what do we need to do to provide decent health care. Other civilized nations have done it successfully, and we're not stupid, so why are we not able to do this here, right? But anyway, this video was about Cayce had predicted, and he never named Trump in the video because Trump wasn't alive yet when Edgar Cayce died. I think in maybe 45. Trump may have been born in 46. But he goes into this person and what he's doing and how he's dividing the country and how he's succeeded in alienating our allies, and how perilous a time this is for us. But he's also talking about the fact that at the end of all of this convulsion, and possibly some revolution, and maybe the military having to get involved, we will end up being a better country once we get through this. And so when I think about the pain and the suffering that is going to be visited, and especially upon the poor people living in a lot of red districts right now who voted for Trump, I feel like they have to go through this pain and suffering in order to come to their senses. I mean, they were so worried about the undocumented getting something, taking something away from them, right? No, it's Trump. Trump and his colleagues in Congress that are taking it away from you. So I hope that you watch. It's about, I don't know, half an hour long, the video. But you will come out feeling hopeful in the end. It's a little scary in the middle. Like what is happening right now is a little scary, and the timeline could be off a bit because we do have free will, and because of that we can move things backwards and forwards in time. And of course the other thing, the narrator was wondering, how was Cayce able to look into the future like that and see these things? If time is simultaneously, there's already a 2026 world in progress that he could have tapped, that Cayce could have tapped into in 1944, or whenever he made this prediction, was around that time. So I'm hoping that you guys take the time to watch this, and I would love to hear back from you once you have. Give me your thoughts. I feel I am the eternal optimist. I am always the optimist, and there is a bigger picture than just the immediate shit show that we're looking at right now. So keep the larger picture in mind and keep your hopes up. Keep your love going. And it's hard to love a thing like Trump. He's just so unlovable and so disagreeable and so disgusting. But we can do this. We can do this, and we can come out a better country when we're done with it. So wishing you guys a good week coming, and take heart. We're going in the right direction. It's just a bumpy road getting there. Bye for now.